What's going on, good people? What's going on? How we doing today? Hope you're well on this Saturday. Like I said, we're covering the step sequencer today. Let's get into it. Remember to bring some energy into everything that you do, and always put the most important thing in your life first, just like Logic Pro. All right. All right, we meet again. I recognize you. I see the hard work that you're putting in, and I am doing the same. We're going to cover the step sequencer day. There's really not much to say. This is an incredible feature that it ultimately blows my mind that it's free, that we get to pay for Logic Pro one time over, and we get all of these feature sets, and I'm really excited about the future. And yet, I'm really appreciating the current iteration of this program. We're going to get right into it. I'm your host, Eddie Gray. If you're liking the content, you're liking the channel, and you appreciate the commitment and dedication, go ahead and sub. Go ahead and share this with just one person. Take a screenshot, put it on your socials. That's all we ask in return. And let's get right into it. Here we go. We're going to get into the step sequencer. As mentioned, this hasn't necessarily taken the throne of what used to be Ultra Beat, and there used to be another well, there still is a feature, but it's just not really talked about. It's I think it's called the step editor, and this kind of takes the cake in terms of features and possibilities. I think Ultra Beat is still great. It's got some great sounds in there, some great creative possibilities, but it simply is not what the step sequencer is, and cannot kind of follow up with its possibilities. So let's talk about the step sequencer. This is inspired by classic hardware step sequencers that have rows of configurable switches or knobs used to generate repeating musical patterns. In step sequencer, you create patterns by editing multifunctional steps in the step grid. Each row controls either a sound, so we're talking a drum kit piece, a note, or a range of notes. So we can either create one of three rows, one containing a drum kit piece, the other melodic, a note on an instrument, and then lastly a range of notes, and we'll cover what that is in a little bit. We can also the second is a note on an instrument or a range of notes, and then the third row is an automation row, letting you create automation changes over the pattern. Somebody just asked me this question on the Apple forum, and I described step by step how to create automation within the step sequencer. Each step represents a definable length of musical time by default. Think 16th notes, 8th notes, etc. Steps are of equal length, but you can change the length for individual rows or individual steps. So we always have the capability of going microcosm and changing the step itself, or the entire row if you wish, which is nice if you really want to have full control over the spectrum. You can adjust a wide range of parameters for individual steps. These are called attributes. All right, this would include velocity, pitch, gate, and more. We can also edit the pattern and row settings. So we now have a new feature called the pattern inspector, similar to the region inspector, similar to the cell inspector, which allows us to include pattern length, row loop start and endpoints, playback position, and rotation. So if you want to be very specific, you would edit on a step or row basis. And yet, if you want to kind of pull back a little bit and be more objective, then perhaps you can make those changes inside of the pattern inspector. The step sequencer appears in the editor's working area below, so that would be the key command E. I just want to be clear that this is not a plugin. Okay, this is not like a new track in Logic. If you may have remembered a couple of versions ago, I don't know if it was 10.2 or 3, they brought out Drummer. This was a new kind of track. We hadn't had a new track in decades, right? We had audio, we had MIDI. Finally, something new came out called Drummer, and essentially it's a collection of different technologies, but essentially now with the pattern format, I think that's a better way of kind of looking at it. We can use this with software instruments. So we can't use it with audio. I think there are some hacks where you could do some crazy routing, but generally speaking, we can use this for software instruments. This can be Logic stock. This can also be third party. So you can pull something up from, let's say, Kontakt and start playing it within the step sequencer. But because there is a little bit of a learning curve, it's good to tune in, take notes on what's important, and then you can have all the fun you want. All right, so a couple things to look at. So right up here at the top, you have the step sequencer menu bar. All right, I believe it's called the pattern browser. Let me double check this for us. So let's see here. Let me bring you guys in. Here. Good. If you guys have questions, I'll check it out here at the halfway point, answer anything pertinent to the subject at hand. And if not, you can always email us at support@hfmusicacademy.com. Okay, so we're looking at all the possibilities within Logic Pro. We have audio, which we know we can pre-record ourselves, or it's already been recorded for us. And number two, we can play in the MIDI, and of course we can drag in MIDI from the Loop browser or utilize third-party sample sets. Drummer, fairly new technology the last couple of years. I thought completely changed the game, especially for individuals that don't have rhythm or just aren't inclined to think like a drummer. Just such a beautiful songwriting tool. And then lastly, the step sequencer. But again, we know that this is just a software instrument, and we're really just looking at a new format. So it's probably best to say that there are 4 different formats that we can utilize in Logic Pro at the moment. I'm excited to see more, and I know something else will come. Pretty soon this whole thing is going to be playing for us, I'm sure. So there's the step sequencer, and I just want to look at, if I hit the key command E, right? I just want to look at that button right there, and it says show hide pattern browser, and the key command is Option Shift B. So unless I was pointing at the wrong thing, step sequencer menu bar. I think they're pointing. Oh, okay. Maybe they're. Yeah, I think. Let me highlight this on here. They're kind of saying this entire thing is the menu bar. Okay, that's a little bit kind of misleading, but okay, good. And then right here we have the pattern browser, and this is where I think every beginner should start. And then to the right of that is the pattern inspector, and this is where we can edit, globally speaking, on a pattern, a row, or a step level. So you don't always have to have your hands inside of the step sequencer per se. You can kind of take a step back. It's always fun to do that as well. While you're making changes, if you don't want to hear the information, go ahead and turn off MIDI out. And then we talked about the attributes. Those can be found here in the up and down arrow menu. All right. And then the way it works is if we're inputting MIDI data, to keep it simple here, this one is on, right? You see how it's highlighted in blue? But if we're assigning attributes, let's think a tie or a note repeat, or one of these skip, then we would click on this edit mode button, and now we're editing attributes. Okay, now bear in mind the piano roll, all this stuff is dimmed out because this is a new format that does not lean on these technologies. All right, and I think that's good. Let's continue on. All right, the step grid, the main working area where you turn steps on and off. And to input this data, you simply would just literally click one time. See what I'm doing here? Just click that one time. Same here. All right, good. Let me turn this thing down. All right. All right. So we saw the menu bar at the top, right? Contains the pattern browser, the MIDI out, which I just showed you, the edit mode selector, right? Remember that button right next to step on and off? There's a preview button and zoom control. So let's say you get lost in terms of your zoom level, you can always resort to the zoom slider here on the left. And I'm curious, we can also utilize just the typical commands, right? Left command up and down. And then I'm pretty sure we can use, nope, you cannot use any pinch gestures the way that we're used to, but you can use these key commands. Okay, good. Wait, there was something else. Oh, the preview button. Where is that preview button? Right here. All right. So if you want to hear your pattern, okay, so that is in isolation, right? We're hearing this kind of away from everything else. Here, let me turn this off. All right. So there's a bunch of delay here. I don't know how that got there. Okay, so now we're hearing just the step sequencer, not the tune. Here we go. All right, so that's one way to listen to your pattern. Perhaps you're trying to add a snare fill or something like that. This is a good way of going about it. Okay, let's continue on here. Okay, so we talked about the step sequencer inspector as well, contain tab sets containing pattern, row, and step settings. The row headers. So similar to the track header, we have rows containing the row icon, whether it's a snare, a hi-hat, and this allows us to look at more than just the current attribute. We can look at other lanes, if you will, so we can best edit these parameters, including mute and solo. So a row assignment pop-up menu can also be found there, rotate buttons, an increment and decrement value button as well. So let me show you those. Let me delete all this info. It sounds no bueno. There's a key command to delete all this. I forgot what it was. I learned it one time and I just simply cannot remember it. But I know you can also just see there's a command delete. So I'll just use that for now. Yeah, but that's actually deleting the row. I just want to delete the information. Clear row. Here we go. So good. All right. There should be a way to do it for everything. Let's turn off MIDI out so we're not listening to this stuff. Okay, so that's gone. Delete that. All right, so let's start here. Okay, let's turn MIDI back on. MIDI out. So not the... There's so much delay on here. So if you have been watching the series, you might have remembered smart controls. So I'm just checking if there's delay in here. There is, but it's turned off. I wonder where all this delay is coming from. Seriously. It sounds like it's built into the sound or something. Let's see. It's okay if it is. I'm just kind of wondering if I could tone it down a little bit. All right. I'm good with it. I will live with it. Okay. So 3 most important things are going to be how long the pattern is, 32 steps, 16. Then we're going to want to look at the patterns themselves, right? Now, if I open up the row, we can see different lanes, and here are all the attributes that I can play with. So let's say I have a hi-hat playing across all the way. So let me click and drag over. Okay, so I just drew in just by clicking and dragging horizontally. Okay, but what if I wanted that to crescendo? Well, then I would open up this lane. Another thing you can do, I'm not sure if you noticed that, but when I clicked on the hand icon, I was able to listen to the sound. So that's a nice way to preview them. So another thing you could do is you click here, and this basically takes you to that attribute immediately without having to look at the automation lane. So again, I'm clicking step on and off. Here I can input the data, the sounds, right? Another way of doing this is to select the edit mode, and then now I can do it this way. So I'll just start this way because this is probably the just like the most obvious. And then one more thing here, not only is it important to realize how long this is going to be, but it's also important to realize when it plays back, what rate is it going to play back? Default is 16th, but if you wanted to go halftime or even double time, you could. So we'll play with that in a second. So let me press spacebar after I select some kind of crescendo thing here. So you can see it starts off fairly quiet. I'll get really quiet in the beginning, and then this will just kind of build up over time. Here we go. Good. So then what I'll do is extend this out. So I'm going to click in the bottom right. This is just going to loop by default. See how it just kind of keeps repeating? It's almost like you're creating a loop inside here. Of course, this is all contingent on the length of the sequence. But the second time, I don't want it to, I want it to play differently. So I can't edit it because this is 32 steps, right? So then what I'll do is I'll extend out the graphics so I can look at all of the pattern. Does that make sense? So in essence, everything on the left side here and everything on the right side here. So I'll take off these here. Now, rather than having to mouse around and go all the way back here and turn it on or off and then go back to the edit mode button, I have a workflow for you that could work. So we're going to hold Command, and that basically bypasses the need to make sure that step on and off is in key focus. So I'll click one time over. All right, good. Now those are off, and I'll do the same thing here. Yeah, okay. So then now, because, you know, we're doing something different, I'll change the pattern. Let me see. Maybe I'll do, yeah, I'll do some kicks or something else. Yeah, not sure if that's going to sound good, but still, I just need a different texture. So from the top, here we go. Good. So now you can hear this develop and evolve over time. If I had selected a sequence that was only 32 steps, I'm limited, and any changes I make, let's say here, will be reflected the next time over. You see how I keep adding stuff here? Let me turn this off so you could see it. Let me see. You see how it keeps adding it to both sides, right? That's not going to work. So get a good handle on this feature right here, and the pattern length, and I really believe that's going to help out tremendously. And then understand the pattern step rate. So you heard how it was playing back. Let me go ahead and double this. Might sound a little ridiculous, and you can see how that was reflected inside of the pattern format, but check it out. So it's literally playing double time. Let's do halftime. So we started off at 16 by default. Here's halftime, and you can see that now instead of having 2 patterns, we are now subjected to 1. So that's kind of cool. So here, check this out. I can grab this, option drag it over, and I can have this one now speed up, right? And so we can have different workflows. So this one will play at halftime, this one will play at double time. Let's just play this back and then we'll continue on. Good. All right. So now we have a decent grasp on how to use all the various settings. Of course, there's always more, but let's continue on here. So the step sequencer patterns are contained in the pattern and the pattern cells. So that's a good distinction. We have the pattern region and we have the pattern cells that exist inside of Live Loops Grid. Pattern regions and cells are used primarily on MIDI-based software instruments. See how they're saying primarily, which means that you can use it elsewhere. Pattern regions, but not pattern cells, can be used on audio tracks to automate effects. Okay, so here we go. Let's take some information. Let's learn from this. Saying that we can use them on audio tracks to automate effects and channel strip parameters. A project can contain any number of pattern, region, or cells. So that's really cool. I hope to hopefully we can work on that. That'd be fun. Each pattern, region, or cell functions as an independent step sequencer. Okay, so each one of these, if they're not Looped is going to function like its very own step sequencer with its own configuration, its own settings. You can copy and move pattern regions like other regions in the track's area. While pattern cells can be copied, moved, triggered, and queued like other live loop cells, you can modify pattern regions and cell parameters in the region inspector or cell inspector respectively. All right, so saying that you can do basically all the same stuff that you could do with the MIDI regions. So while pattern cells can be copied, moved, you can modify pattern region and cell parameters in the region inspector or cell inspector. Okay, so just, yeah, it all does the same stuff. All pattern row and step settings as well as step sequencer view settings are stored with the pattern. You can also save pattern as template, which contain all the current settings for the pattern except for the step values. You can use it as a starting point for creating new patterns. All right, so there's something called saving as a template inside of this new tech. So let's think about these two types of rows. We have note rows, okay? These generate MIDI note events. By default, all notes in a note row have the same pitch. As soon as you change the pitch, what's going to happen is that this is going to turn into what's called a melodic row, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you can change the pitch for individual steps using the note and octave edit modes. So it's true that you can use the note rows, but you have to understand, what happens when you change the rows, and we'll talk about that, as I said. Automation rows. So just to kind of go back on that, generated stepped automation events for an automatable parameter. You can assign an automation row for any automatable parameter, including MIDI, channel strip controls, plugin parameters, and smart controls. Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize you could change all of that. So that's good to highlight. You can use these automation rows for anything. Each row can have its own length, its own step rate, right? How it plays back within the sequence, its own playback mode. You can play forward, reverse, you can shuffle. Start offset, meaning is it ahead of the beat or behind the beat, and other settings. Patterns can be from 12 to 64 steps in length, allowing for different time signatures and multiple bar patterns. You can add rows to a pattern manually, or you can use learn mode. This is a pretty cool feature for some of you that are more advanced. When learn mode is active, rows are added when you play notes for which no row exists. So essentially, the goal here is, if you don't want to have to format all this and do all the technical work, if you know the chords of your song, or you know that you want to play in the kick, snare, and hi-hat, all you have to do is click on learn mode, hit the necessary keys, and Logic or the step sequencer will learn these for you. They will now exist inside of the step sequencer for you. You don't have to do any engineering or poking around. It's all done for you. Or it says here, or when you manipulate an automation parameter for which no row exists. So essentially, if you select an automation here, I'll just show you really quick. If I click up here and I go to automation, and let's say we wanted to play with volume per se, right? Now I've created the automation row. Now this is subject to affecting the entire kit. In this case, I have a drum kit, but this could have been a synth or what have you. So this is going to affect everything, right? So let's say I set this to 0. Okay. Let's see, let me go back here. Okay, so pay attention to the left-hand side here. The automation is going nuts as I play this back. Check it out. Good. Conversely, I can also click here, click on Learn, Okay, so it's ready for some type of signal. I'll click on that pan knob. All right, here's pan. So remember, the only thing that is cumbersome is that you first have to turn it on. So even though we have recalled or brought up pan, we still have to turn it on by means of the step sequencer, right? We have to enable each and every step to get this to recognize it. So I'll automate everything to the left and then to the right. I can make that a little bit better. All right, here we go. All right, look at the pan knob. See, now it's going to go to the right and then left. Okay, does that make sense? So we're just automating those parameters. Here I have volume automation, and here I have pan automation. Okay, let's keep going. Oh wait, was there one more thing I missed there? So each row, you can add rows manually. Okay, yeah, you can add them manually as well. So for example, if I wanted to change this to the hi-hat, right? This is a clap currently. We're not hearing because MIDI out is off. Okay, and you know what? I'm gonna turn off this this pan thing because it's gonna completely botch what I am doing here. Let's see. Forgot the key command to delete. Yeah, that guy. And then wait, how do you delete? Oh yeah, command delete. Awesome. Let's listen to this. And we'll delete that too. All right, cool. So if we want to change the rim to, let's do something really different so it sounds to the tom. Let's see what that sounds like. Right, you can change it that way. We can also go and create an automation row. Again, let's say we wanted to change what would be very palpable. I guess the drive for my overdrive. Again, it's on. But in order to understand its value, you're going to have to enable it here. So let's listen to these toms. They should crunch pretty hard. Maybe. Let's see. Nay, why not? Oh, that's because there's an automation row, but there's no sound. Okay, that should do it there. Let's listen to this. All right, now if I turn these off, that's still pretty hard. But that's the idea. Is that you're creating all of this simultaneously. Let me see if I can get these. Yeah, these should crunch pretty hard. Good. All right. Let's see what this sounds like. Good. Without. With. Good. All right. Let's keep going here. All right. So we've talked about the edit modes and how we can control the different attributes. All right, some edit modes apply to only one row type. So remember, we have row types, and some of these are only going to apply to that row type, while others are common to both. So for note rows, you can change the velocity, pitch, gate time, number of repetitions, and other attributes. So let's highlight that. It's important language there. And then for automation rows, we can change the value of the automated parameter. Edit modes common to both row types include skipping and tying steps, so more having to do with time per se, and not necessarily the sound that's coming out, right? That's because it's an automation row, so it's not affected in the same way. So something that I do want to mention real quick, let's see, on these hi-hats, okay, that come in at the very end. So we talked about changing their note. I want you to see what happens when we do that. So I'll go to the edit mode button. I'll go to note, and then I'm going to click right here. Let me close the lane. Okay. I'm going to click and drag down by one. Okay, so then now look at what happened. We changed the sound tonally. It's a tom now, but more importantly, look at what happened here, my good friends. We were utilizing a note row, and then now we have converted this into a melodic row. That's probably the biggest obstacle in understanding the step sequencer, in my opinion. I've spent a lot of time with it. I've spent a lot of time consulting, showing others how to use it. And I believe that once this is conquered and you understand the difference between a note row, a melodic row, and an automation row, it's pretty easy lifting after that. So this is all good. We know how to select the edit mode for all rows in the pattern using the edit mode selector. Again, I showed you the hack earlier. The rows are always going to match the edit mode. So depending on what you select, they're always going to be selected inside here. Okay. While you can choose any unused edit mode for a sub row, you can add and delete sub rows as needed. So let's say we want to add another row to this kick, even though I haven't necessarily added anything to it. But let's say we have, you would just hit that plus, and now you can assign gate. In other words, you don't have to make the adjustments here, right? This is not adding anything. It's just accessing menu items that are kind of happening in the background. So then if I wanted to do a note repeat, here, let me just show you this. On this snare, for example, right? I haven't done anything with note repeat, but I want to start utilizing it. So I'll click here, and that's going to be 5 hits within 1. So listen to this. Okay, so I was able to do that with this automation, or it's the sub row, right? But bear in mind, I'm currently under the edit mode note, and so I don't have to have note repeat selected to do it this way. You can either edit here within edit mode, or you can edit within the sub rows there. Awesome. All right, so here we are creating step sequencer patterns in Logic Pro. Let's keep it going. Oh, wait a minute, there's something here we missed. So this is very suited to creating drum patterns, but please do not feel limited. All right, you can create beautiful melodies, phenomenal chords. When you create new pattern regions on a track with a drum machine designer, note rows, show names, and icons. Okay, so this is actually important language. So it's like, hey, if you're using drum machine designer, just want to let you know that the note rows are going to show names and icons matching the kit pieces, and the row assignment pop-up menu shows the kit pieces name rather than MIDI note names. So if I end up using Drum Machine Designer like I currently have, you can start seeing the names of the hi-hats, so on and so forth. Where if I do that with something that is not the Drum Machine Designer, let me convert this over to a pattern really quick. See how it shows the note names? Yeah, that's the difference. All right. Wait, did they say something else that was important? Drum Machine Designer patches. No, yeah. So it's basically specifically created to use with DMD. All right, let's keep going. Using the step sequencer, you can create rhythm-based drum patterns and note-based instrument patterns using any available software instruments. Of course, you can start with an empty pattern, or you can use some of the patterns or templates that are available to us. And so you can save these as well, as mentioned. And you can create a pattern by turning steps on and off, right? Modifying the sound, the duration of steps, using all the various edit modes, editing all the aspects of the pattern, including the length, right? So I talked to you, the length is important. The step rate, how is it going to play back? And then, of course, the pattern key. So if you wanted to change the key, you can do so inside of the pattern inspector here, right? We go to the pattern itself. We see that it is in the key of C. If we then change the key, let's see if I could try and hack this. Let's say I go to, let's go G major. All right, now this has followed suit. Now, I don't know if I start drawing in stuff, if it will change after this, but it's worth a shot. Let's try this out really quick. So currently it's in the key of G. I'll change the key again. Let's go E major, and no. So when this is, wait, unless I didn't see it, this one's in C and that one's in G. Yeah. So if it's empty, it will conform, it will align, and otherwise it has data embedded in it, and so it will not follow. You see how I just created this blank pattern? And of course, what do we see? That it's in the key of E. Even though the song is not necessarily in the key of E, I'm not sure what key it's in. All right, so let's see. Rows by activating learn mode, you can quickly add rows by playing. Okay, so we should go over that really quick. Let's say I don't exactly know what I'm going to play. But I know I want it to be, and this is a mute point with, in fact, let's do it with up here. So I don't know what chords I'm going to play or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure I want to play that chord. All right. And I'm not a keyboard player per se, but you know, I need a way to document this. I don't want to go in here and have to change all the notes, right? That would be so time consuming. So let's just use the technology to serve. So we'll hit learn, and then I will hit one note, hit another. All right. So the three notes, let me hit learn off, are A, C, and C. Or, I'm sorry, E. All right. So then now we just have to play those in. Okay. So actually, I think this would make more sense if we did it like this. So I'm just dragging vertically now. I don't need those, and I don't need those. And we don't even need those. Okay, so then now check out this pattern. Okay, but wouldn't it be cool if we could extend this out? All right, this is when we start to use all the various attributes. So I'm going to tie this over and there. This one I want a little bit shorter. Let's do that. That one should be. All right, you can see how you would build a chord and how you would get them to sustain utilizing the edit mode button. All right, let's go back to step on and off. All right, so how do we create this format? You want to control click a software instrument and not create a MIDI region, but create a pattern region. All right, and then we want to preview. I showed you how to do that. Adding rows, you can add a row and choose the pitch for note rows or an automation parameter directly from the add row pop-up menu. And you can also use learn mode as I've showed you. So let's say, and let me delete all the rest of the stuff that we don't want anymore. Maybe this. Okay. So then now I know I want this to be 4-part chord, but I'm not sure what the note is. So, you know, you can do it, I mean, one of a billion ways, but I'll go ahead and just experiment. So we'll go, so we know that note is wrong, right? And so let's start thinking about what the note could be. So if I have E, I don't know, let's try F, and we'll stay in the range. It's probably better if it's G3. Let's see what this sounds like. All right. So you can do it that way, but honestly, it's much easier if you just, let me delete this. I'm just gonna, wait, why isn't this deleting? There we go, Command delete. And then I'm going to just hit that plus button right there. And of course, I'll go to learn, and then I'll hit the key. Yeah, here we go. Oh, I hit 2 by mistake. All right, delete that. And then again, we want to create the step. I am inside of the edit mode attribute button. So I'm going to hold command. I input the MIDI data, so without having to move the mouse. And now I'm in tie already, so all I have to do is just kind of bring that together. Here we go. All right, want to add some automation, so we'll click on automation, and I'll just do something simple like volume. Again, turn all these on first. They have to be turned on in order for Logic to understand what the protocol is. Oh, this is actually important. In this case, you would not want to tie these together because, yeah, so let me get rid of this tie here. Because we want it to be dynamic. I mean, I guess you can. I'm just saying that probably wouldn't fit as well. And maybe I'll just tie the ending just so you can kind of see what I'm saying. All right, so then I'll go tie, and I'll tie all of these together, and I'll turn it on as one. So I can change all of the independent values here, right, with fine control. But when it, and in fact, I'll make this really kind of tremolo, on and off. Yeah, let's do that. And then at the end, I'll just leave it on. Yeah, so let's go off, on, good. All right. Or tremolo, as my good friend John tells me. Here we go. All right, so you hear what that sounds like, right? And then so what I'll do is I'll add a note repeat at the end of that. So, you know, it's typical to hear it on a drum, but what if we heard it on the notes? That would be cool. Now, bear in mind, I'm under automation right now. So how do I do this inside here? Well, I'm affecting automation. So what I need to do is tell the program, hey, I want to look at another sub row. So I'll click play. It already knows that I have tie selected, and it already knows that, well, I thought it was going to choose note repeat, to be honest. All right, cool. But either way, we're going to select it. Where is, oh, can we, oh, okay. Gotcha. So going back to what they were saying, you cannot use note repeat for, in fact, let's just quote the, where was it? So for note rows, we can change velocity, pitch, gate timing, the number of note repetitions, and other attributes, right? But for automation rows, all we can do is automate things. So what's common to both is skipping and tying steps, changing the loop start and end point, things like that. So I guess I will try that out. So let's do about loop start and end. So this one's really interesting because you're telling Logic when to start and when not to start. Let me see if I can get this from the right side here. No. There we go. All right, so I'm just determining where it's going to start. I'll just make it, you know, short like this. Let's see what this sounds like. So now it's not regarding all of these notes here on the side, right? It's just using that value. I always love just how nuts the automation goes here. All right, you guys get it. Okay, let's keep it going here. So now we now know how to add rows. That's great. We can use learn as we talked about. Be sure to turn learn mode off, right? After you perform your actions after adding a row, you can turn steps on or off or edit other settings using edit modes. Step Sequencer provides many controls and functions for working with patterns. You can modify pattern playback, edit steps and rows, right? Edit the pattern, edit row and step settings. So it's pretty detailed. You can also customize different aspects of Step Sequencer to suit your workflow. It looks like we're going to be doing that in a little bit here. We can change the musical length of a pattern in Logic Pro. Let's look into that really quick, and then we'll call it a day. Several factors determine the musical length of a step sequencer. The time in bars and beats before the pattern repeats. The most fundamental is the pattern length, which defines the maximum number of steps available to each row. So it's basically math. And the pattern step rate, which defines the length of each step in musical divisions. So this right here is a pattern step rate. So as I mentioned, right now it's playing at a default of 16th notes. Sounds like this. Right? It's just 1 iana, 2 iana, that kind of thing. If I double that, it sounds like this. And then let's just times 2. That sounds cool. Let's go. So that could just be an effect that you just work, you know, like for the first bar, let me just start using the marquee tool. I'll set this up, you know, 64, and then I'll set the second pattern region to 32. I'll set the last one to 16, and then we'll just go a nice even 8 on the last. Here we go. Yeah, it's not reading this one for some reason. Maybe it's too slow for its Let me just turn all of them on then. Let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, that's because the first volume was off. Oh geez, there's always something. So yeah, just be aware that sometimes if something is not on, in this case volume, obviously it's not going to play back. So you gotta have to kind of pay attention. And these things are gonna, go above and under you. So don't worry about it. The main thing is that you understand its infrastructure, and that will get you across. All right. Another important factor affecting the musical length of a pattern is the loop start and end point. So this is pretty cool. You can get really creative with that. You can set the number of steps for each row. So in this case, we have six. Let me look at this. We have 16. Okay. So if I have like a hi-hat thing all the way across, right? Listen to this. Okay, well, I don't have to set this so that it's 16, right? I can change the loop point, and we can do this on a global kind of step sequencer basis or pattern basis, or we could just do it individually for this specific. So I'll have two different parts going on. Listen to this. Okay, so for this one though, I'm gonna want to change the loop start and end. So look at this. I'm grabbing just for the individual second hi-hat, and I'll make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counts. This should sound interesting. Let's go. Right, and you could do so much more stuff which we're not even talking about. For example, this one here, I can have this play backwards if I wanted to. All right, so here, let me turn this one off so you understand what I'm saying. Listen to this one. So normally it would start playing from the beginning. This time it's going to start playing from the 16th step to the left. Check it out. Oh wait, but I forgot to change the loop start. Hold on. Yes, like that. Okay, listen to this. Yeah, so infinite creative possibilities, my good friends. When row lengths are evenly divisible or divisible with one another, the overall length is equal to the longest row. For example, if you shorten several rows in a 16-step pattern to 4 or 8 steps, which both divide evenly, the pattern remains a 1-bar pattern. So, but if you change it, it could alter it dramatically. When row lengths are not evenly divisible, however, the musical length is increased sometimes substantially because the pattern doesn't repeat until all rows start at the same time. So yeah, they're talking about polyrhythms now. Using the skip edit method can also result in the length of the rows changing. So skip is really interesting because it will literally skip parts. Going back to my my part here. Let's see here. What's the best way to explain this? I think what I'll do is I'll go into skip, okay? And I'm going to tell Logic to skip, let's see, hold on. Let's go here, skip, and I'll skip this one. Let's see what this turns out like. Maybe I should do that. Okay, so you see, before we were getting 3 steps. Here, let me hit Command Z so you can hear that. So it's not playing this one because the volume is down. It is playing this one because the volume is up. But then when I skipped the center step, now it's just playing 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I have to raise up the volume for you to hear it. Check it out. Man, this is awesome. All right, the playback mode, right? This is something else that can obviously affect what we're doing here. You can choose ping pong, which plays forward and back, right? It can that would obviously double the pattern length, while setting any row to random can result in musical length pattern being infinite. I mean, literally. So, in the case of, let me make this really easy here. Oh wait, I need to choose step on and off, and then let me just make sure I didn't change the loop start or end. Let me just do that just in case. All right. So here, I'll tell Logic, hey, I want this to play forward and back, right? Check it out. For some reason, I don't see it moving back. Usually does work. Let me know on your side if you see that, but that is the playback mode. Maybe let me hit steps. Maybe I'm not looking at the right thing. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. No, it's definitely just, it's just playing one way. It should play both forward and back. See, like right there, it's playing in reverse. This should be forward and back. Oh, my bad. So the cycle region was across just one bar, so we're not looking at the whole thing. Here we go. All right, so that's really nice. And then we have that random shuffle mode as well. Okie dokie. Let's see. The pattern length we've talked about, right? When we increase the pattern length, you're essentially adding duplicates. Pattern length is more than 16 beats. The entire pattern may not be visible in the step grid, in which case you're going to have to use, let me change this to 32. Let me go to 64. Is it because I'm using this? Okay. So click on this. Okay. So what's interesting here is once you get beyond a certain border, you won't be able to visually kind of capture everything. So if I go to 32 steps here, it can encapsulate the pattern for the most part. But if you're in the wrong mode, I don't know what these are called here on the sides, but essentially you won't be able to see the whole thing. So if I click there, you now see one phrase and then the other, right? And I can access, like, let me add some stuff here, okay? All right, so now we're going back and forth, right? All right, my good friends, we're going to call it a day here. Thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday. Have a beautiful Saturday. Wanted to thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. This is Resources for the Modern Creative. If you're enjoying the content, all we ask is that you share. Thank you so much for just another session. We've been doing this for so many weeks on end, and I'm so excited to just keep on this education. So thank you for the opportunity. We're going to get out of here.